At the Gojo residence, Kitagawa washes her Shizuku tan wig while Gojo reads out the instructions on how to properly clean it. During it, Kitagawa is overwhelmed with infatuating feelings for Gojo. Unbeknownst to the two, Kaoru was being driven home by Miori, who is told the reason behind how he injured himself. Upon arriving home, Kaoru is left shocked by Gojo, who holds the dress that he made, and the sudden appearance of Kitagawa, who stood beside him. Later in the living room, Kitapro tape is applied to Kaoru's back and is given a full explanation of the relationship between Gojo and Kitagawa. Impressed by Gojo's work by creating a lovely black dress, Gojo, however, claims that it's still a work in progress, as both Gojo and Kaoru discuss the flaws in such of the dress that can be worked on. Kitagawa's heart races and realizes that she's head over heels for Gojo. Disconcerted and indecisive, Kitagawa comes to terms that she loves Gojo, but before she decides on how to approach the situation with him, her stomach rumbles loudly. The loud noise catches Gojo and Kaoru's attention, and although ready to die of embarrassment, she's invited to stay over for dinner. During dinner together, Gojo informs Kitagawa that he cooks because he lost his parents. As it turns out, Kitagawa also lost her mother, but her father left her because he got a job transfer. When asked if she cooks for herself, Kitagawa says that she does and shows them a picture of a meal that she once made for herself, which irks the two. After learning this and the other things that she eats, Kaoru suggests that she eat dinner with them every night, and with Gojo's approval, Kitagawa accepts the offer. Later, Gojo walks Kitagawa to the train station, and there, Kitagawa sheepishly says to Gojo that she'll see him again tomorrow. The two then separate, and on the train, Kitagawa reflects on a certain phrase that Gojo said. On a rainy day, a young girl takes shelter at the Gojo residence. When Gojo returns home that day, Kaoru leaves to do an errand, but before he does, informs Gojo that a guest is there to see him. At the moment, she was taking a bath because she was soaked with water, and Kaoru suggests that he serve her a drink when she was done. Unnerved that his grandfather let in someone that he doesn't know and that Kitagawa was at work, Gojo worries that a burglar or con artist was let into the house. Gojo then confronts the visitor in the bathroom and catches her naked. The girl was about to yell at Gojo, but instead slips backward. Briefly, Gojo recalls a memory of his past where he learns about the process of a hina doll's head from his grandfather. Back in the present, the girl is served some juice, and Gojo learns from her that her name is Sajuna Inui, and that she goes to a different school, but is older than he is, learning that she's interested in the dresses that he makes. Gojo misinterprets this as she's interested in hina doll and shows her the room that's filled with them. Seemingly at first, Sajuna was interested in the dolls, but then reveals that her true interest is with the cosplay outfits that he makes and shows him a picture of Kitagawa in his Shizuku tan costume. Despite his reluctance, Sajuna emotionally blackmails him to make her a cosplay costume while noting her cosplay name as Juju. Gojo recognizes the name as someone Kitagawa deeply admires. How Sajuna found out that Gojo was the one who created the cosplay, and where he lived, where she found an image of Kitagawa online and stalked them through the day of the cosplay event. She also stalked Gojo on his way home to his residence. Eventually, Kitagawa comes over after work to enjoy dinner with Gojo and is left astonished by the appearance of Sajuna. Gojo introduces her, which upsets Sajuna for using her real name. On the other hand, Kitagawa immediately gets into Sajuna's face and bombards her with questions and compliments. Learning that her reason for being there is that she saw pictures of her cosplay, Kitagawa bursts into absolute euphoria. Once Kitagawa finally settled down, Sajuna requests that Gojo create Shin Nikado's Black Lily cosplay outfit for her. It's a character from the anime series. Flower Princess Blaze, and Kitagawa explains the story and some of the plot to Gojo. Although Sajuna can purchase an official Black Lily outfit, she wants one that fits her perfectly. This makes Kitagawa confess her cosplay interests, and Sajuna snaps at her, but internally confesses that she's the type of cosplayer she loves. Remorseful that she assumed that Kitagawa was another shallow cosplayer, Sajuna tearfully apologizes. Afterward, Sajuna announces that she plans to leave and asks that she get Gojo's contact info so she can stay in touch with him and send him the information on Black Lily. She also points out that there's nothing else intended in doing this, but both Kitagawa and Gojo are confused by this. So Sajuna then asks if they're dating, flustered by the question. In one long outburst of an answer, Gojo reveals that they aren't and overwhelmed with emotion. He leaves to fetch Sajuna's clothes. Kitagawa, however, was amused that Gojo doesn't have a girlfriend and then asks if she can cosplay together with Sajuna, but she flatly rejects it. Kitagawa proposes to Sajuna to do a group cosplay with her, but Sajuna flatly refuses. Gojo overhears this and notes the details behind the group cosplay term. In her own words, Sajuna mainly cosplays for herself and leaves behind plenty of great photos. She also plans on renting a studio for her Black Lily cosplay, which excites Kitagawa, and asks to be a part of it, offering to pay for half of the studio costs. The offer entices Sajuna as studio costs are pricey, and Gojo offers to pitch in as well. When asked why he's willing to help, Gojo reveals that he helps Kitagawa with her eyelashes and makeup. Hearing this astonishes Sajuna, and Kitagawa confirms it, carefully considering the offer. Sajuna is left at an impasse, but Kitagawa offers to rescind her request and looks forward to Sajuna's Black Lily photos. conceding. Sajuna agrees to Kitagawa's offer, but only for that one time, elated. Kitagawa cheers in celebration while Gojo resolves himself to watch the entire Flower Girl Blaze anime. This surprises Sajuna, who figured that a picture would suffice. However, Gojo believes watching the series would give him a better idea of the character, what material to use. He goes on to explain how he played both Slippery Girls 1+2 for references, and the input irks Sajuna as it's too much information for her. When Gojo searches the net on his phone for a way to watch the series, Kitagawa offers him her complete box set of the series, which is comprised of 126 episodes. Afterward, Gojo informs his grandfather Kaoru about his new project and how he has to visit Kitagawa's house to fetch some heavy reference material from there. Once that is out of the way, Kaoru examines and judges a hina head that Gojo made and gives his approval of it. Kaoru informs Gojo that he's really improved in his skill, and that making the costume for Kitagawa helped him improve his skills. The following day, Gojo visits Kitagawa's home and Gojo is left flabbergasted by Kitagawa's clothing. However, Kitagawa was more shocked about not wearing her contacts. Returning wearing a sweat jacket, Gojo gives Kitagawa a bag of pudding and is allowed inside. With Kitagawa briefly out of the picture, Gojo has an anxiety attack for being in Kitagawa's home and hopes to get the DVDs and just leave. However, when Kitagawa returns, she offers to watch them with him, making it easier for him to do than carry the heavy load with him home. Reluctantly, Gojo accepts the offer and is led to Kitagawa's room that's filled with mostly Shizuku-tan merchandise. Immediately, Gojo notes that it really is Kitagawa's room. They then watch some episodes of Flower Girl Blaze. While enjoying some of the pudding that Gojo brought, Gojo takes mental notes of what he watches involving the Black Lily character, and witnesses how she came to be. Amid this, Kitagawa realizes that she's having a home date with Gojo, and despite her flustered nature, she hopes that it never ends. That was until her stomach gurgles and Gojo then suggests that they eat something. Despite Gojo's protest to make something instead of Kitagawa, she insists and goes into the kitchen to make something for them. She decides to make some omelet and quickly prepares some. The end result is a massive failure to wrap the omelet over the rice. However, despite this, Gojo still enjoys the meal and they continue watching the anime, which makes Gojo tearful. Around dusk back at his home, Gojo contacts Sajuna and gets her opinion on the reference sketch that he made. She's impressed by how elaborate the details are to the sketch and offers to pay for the costume. But Gojo refuses to accept any payment due to how early the process is. When asked by Gojo about how she'd like her makeup and hair to be prepared, Sajuna denies any help needed for that, as she'll take care of it herself. Gojo then mentions that after reviewing all of her cosplay photos, he's noticed the spacing of her eyes differs in a few. In response to that, Sajuna mentions she uses tape to pull it off and gives off a demonstration and tips from her video phone. This advice impresses Gojo. While Sajuna thought that Gojo already knew of this, it's then that Gojo confesses that the cosplay costume that he made for Kitagawa was his first, which astounds Sajuna because of the realization that the original set of photos was taken from a smartphone camera. Sajuna allows them to use her camera, which her sister takes the photos. She also touches up the photos in Photoshop to change the lighting and eyes. Gojo then asks if her sister can teach him how to use a camera, and Sajuna agrees to it so long as it's not at his place, and thus they decide to meet at a separate location. They decide at a family restaurant. And after learning about it, Kitagawa decides to tag along. Eventually, they meet Sajuna's little sister Shinju, who's not only taller than Sajuna, but has a bigger bust size than her as well. Shown pictures of Sajuna's cosplays by Shinju, Kitagawa swoons in admiration for them. Sajuna then reveals that her sister is the one who created her name and account while also taking her cosplay photos. She also reveals the reason why she created the account and how she's unable to reply to any of the posts given to the pictures she posts on the account. This is mainly due to the massive influx of posts made on the account, her extremely anxious and didn't know how to reply to them. In Sajuna's opinion, she mainly cosplays for her own interests and not others, while Shinju argues that she's culminated a large fanbase now. Kitagawa then asks Shinju if she likes Juju-sama, and elatedly, Shinju answers yes, which makes her sister blush. Shinju then reveals that they're borrowing their father's DSLR camera, who doesn't use it as a profession, but as a hobby, as Sajuna talks about the camera functions. She answers Gojo's question about the 3 different kinds of lenses that a camera uses. He then asks about the difference between smartphone cameras and regular cameras, which Sajuna notes the differences in quality and options. She gives various examples of the pros of using a camera and her passion to improve her photography skills. Kitagawa then asks Shinju if she'd like to cosplay as well, but she sheepishly declines, with Shinju's permission. Kitagawa takes some photos using the camera and details her interest in taking photos with it. Curious to know how much a DSLR camera would cost, Gojo looks it up on his phone and is astounded to see the exorbitant the prices are for it. This doesn't include the lens or any of the other camera equipment that goes with it. All of this information is a lot for Gojo to take in, as he realizes how expensive the cameras that were used to take Kitagawa's photos in her outfit are. As the group starts to leave the restaurant they're in, Sajuna offers the two to join Shinju and her as they scout out studios to rent for their cosplays, and they agree. So, Sajuna sets the date when they'll do it that weekend, and the meeting place would be the Shin Misato station. The first place they'll go is an old hospital that was converted into a photo studio. At the studio, both Kitagawa and Shinju are psyched to go in. While Sajuna is notably nervous, it's Gojo who notes how the place would be best to take pictures and as it'd be a fitting setting when Black Lily runs after she's defeated by Princess Daisy's straight right. Sajuna agrees with that assessment and then Kitagawa calls for Gojo to hurry up. Heading inside, Gojo sees that Sajuna isn't following him and asks if she's scared of the place. Perturbed, Sajuna rushes into the place dismissing that notion. But Gojo believes his thoughts were right. Upstairs, Kitagawa and Sajuna discuss how they'd work with the darkness in the area. Sajuna also gives Kitagawa some lighting tips which elates Kitagawa and hopes to pass the info on to Gojo. Hearing some noises from outside, Kitagawa notes that it sounds like it'll rain soon and then talks with Shinju about more camera tricks. By a stairwell, Gojo checks up on Sajuna who is noticeably afraid as it downpours rain outside. Asked by Gojo if she wants to wait outside, Sajuna rejects that offer claiming she wants to explore the place to see if it'll work, noting that she's pushing herself. Gojo asks what is her reason for doing it. Softly, Shinju asks if Gojo has any dreams and he answers that he wishes to become a hina doll kashirashi, and she compliments it as a worthy dream. She then discloses her dream to be a magical girl. It was until she started going to elementary school that she found out that what she watched on TV about magical girls was fake. Her dreams seemed hopeless until sometime when she was in middle school that she could purchase magical girl outfits. The first one she bought was not perfect as the size didn't fit her. Her wig wasn't adjusted, and she had no makeup on. However, she was happy and that was all that mattered, despite her dream being a delusion. She hopes to have it realized one way or another. Gojo then asks Sajuna why she'd want him to create her cosplay outfit, as there are plenty of other more experienced tailors out there. In her response, she claims that when she saw Kitagawa's photos of her cosplay, she was jealous. Because of this, it developed a desire for her to wear a cosplay outfit by her designer. If she were to give a description of her desire to have a costume made by him was love at first sight. Hearing this causes Gojo to recall a memory he had with his grandfather and cries a stream of tears because of it. Shocked by this response, Sajuna freaks out as Gojo grasps her hand and thanks her for making him realize something related to how happy his grandfather was in the past. This, however, causes Sajuna to faint as she's never had a man hold her hands before. On the day after the school exam, Kitagawa approaches Gojo and invites him to join her to go to the beach. There, Gojo asks Kitagawa if they're there to take pictures since she was interested in finding locations that interested her. On the other hand, this wasn't the case as Kitagawa just wanted to go to the beach because it was July summer, and they just finished their final exams. Realizing how proactive Kitagawa can be, Gojo was asked by Kitagawa to give her the French fries that were in the bag he was holding. Before he could, however, a hawk snatched the burger that she was eating. Being tailed by the hawk, Gojo throws the French fries at it, allowing them to lose the hawk when they flee. Having lost the hawk, Gojo and Kitagawa sit together and Gojo gives her his hamburger. But Kitagawa breaks it in half and the two enjoy their meal. Once Kitagawa was done, she goes into the water to dip her feet in it and has Gojo join her after a bit. When Gojo does, he has his feet soaked by the waves and is disconcerted by it and reveals that it was in fact his first time at the beach. Primarily due to his interest in cultivating his skills as a hina doll kashirashi. He never had the chance to go anywhere. His grandfather told him that he should observe a lot of things. Hearing that and more from Gojo, Kitagawa promises to take Gojo to a whole bunch of different places. Gojo agrees to it and Kitagawa then walks away noting how embarrassed she is for suggesting they go together by themselves. Back where their stuff was, Kitagawa takes a picture of Gojo and watches him trip and fall into the ocean, causing him to get covered in seaweed. Gojo and Kitagawa both arrive back at Gojo's residence after a shopping trip to get the materials for the next cosplay outfit Gojo was going to make. Heading upstairs to his room, Gojo mentions that the mannequin that he ordered will be arriving soon. In Gojo's room, Kitagawa shows the bottom half of her newly purchased swimsuit, which shocks and flusters Gojo as he wasn't expecting it. Kitagawa also mentions that she sent Gojo a couple of text messages with a photo of herself to Gojo, and he failed to reply to any of them. To Gojo's inner confession, he admits that a lot had happened after he saw that picture of her. Kitagawa goes into an explanation about the new swimsuit making Gojo become apprehensive toward her. Because of this, Kitagawa teases the befuddled Gojo who asks to be left alone for a while. Later, Kitagawa paints a smooth glass rock, prompting Kitagawa to ask Gojo if he blows on his noodles to cool it off. And Gojo answers that he does. She then comments that it feels good to be useful, making Gojo think that he was useful to her. Kitagawa then undresses to try on the outfit. And while Gojo is far too scared to see Kitagawa do this, she claims she's fine with it, but realizes she wasn't wearing an appropriate bra at the time. Eventually, Sajuna arrives and tries on the outfit that Gojo made for her and Mary while wearing her own outfit. Gojo asks Sajuna if any adjustments or changes need to be made. Sajuna comments that the skirt could be poofier, and comparing her comment to his notes, Gojo agrees and offers to add wiring to it, but she says she'll use a tutu that she has. The cape that goes with the outfit is then worn, and as Gojo and Sajuna talk about it, Kitagawa listens and despite not knowing what they're talking about, interrupting her train of thought, Gojo asks how Kitagawa's outfit is and she says multiple times her outfit is insane. As Gojo prepares Kitagawa's hair for her wig and makeup, Sajuna peruses Kitagawa's makeup kit and gives her some tips, and offers some of hers to better match her cosplay character. Gojo asks that Kitagawa use the cosplay tape that they have to make her eyes look sharper to match the character more. Applying the tape to Kitagawa's face, Sajuna advises Gojo to use bobby pins to keep the wig and tape in place. Once the finishing touches have been made, Kitagawa uses her phone as a mirror to see herself and in a flustered state claims that she's been Black Lobelia all along. But Sajuna denies that notion, despite her enthusiasm to take pictures of their cosplays. Kitagawa is crestfallen when it rains on the day of their shooting. In contrast to Kitagawa's disappointment, Sajuna is cool-headed about it, noting it happens. During their heart-to-heart with each other, Kitagawa asks to take a selfie with Sajuna and she agrees to it. After Kitagawa posts it online, she notes how many likes it gets, and at that moment, Gojo arrives with Shinju, who shocks both Kitagawa and Sajuna, shocked with her presence. In a flashback, we see the events of the group scouting places to do their shooting taking place after Sajuna faints from an anxiety attack. When nearly everyone goes their separate ways, Gojo asks Shinju if she too would like to cosplay and goes on with an explanation of why he thinks that. Hearing this makes Shinju frown and Gojo gets flustered and apologizes for saying something so blunt. But Shinju confirms it. She claims that there's one character that she hopes to cosplay as. However, due to the character's anatomy compared to her own, it's impossible for her to pull off. There's also the notion of disgust and rejection coming from her older sister that has her feeling self-conscious. But Gojo gives her some words of motivation from his personal experiences. Shinju then pleads with Gojo to help her and he happily agrees. As it turns out, she wants to cosplay a character from the same series her sister and Kitagawa are cosplaying from. The character that Shinju wants to cosplay is Soma Oniichan, which irks Gojo, and she also mentions that due to being fat and unable to pay for the materials for the cosplay, this makes Gojo have an epiphany about how young Shinju is and the financial complications cosplaying as a hobby can be. Despite the disadvantages against Shinju's dream, Gojo promises her that he'll make it possible. At Gojo's residence, Gojo gives Shinju his school uniform, which is practically identical to the clothing the character wears. Trying on the outfit, Shinju's bust makes the buttons pop off the chest, which Gojo has to sew back on. To fix the problem with Shinju's chest, Gojo suggests that she use a Sarahashi wrap to flatten her chest. Waiting outside of his room while Shinju gets dressed again, Gojo reflects on the hardships most cosplayers have to deal with when they have to make adjustments to their body to fit the character's image. The Sarahashi wrap does make Shinju's stomach flatter, but not so much her chest. There's also the need to use something to broaden her shoulders. Using his phone to search for an alternative to flatten her chest, Gojo finds a product known as a beholder that fits their price range. Shinju purchases it and then Gojo tries to measure the circumference of her head, but unintentionally causes a scene involving her chest. Some time passes by and Gojo purchases a wig for Shinju's costume and invites her over as he cuts it. At first, Gojo is too stressed out to cut it, which surprises Shinju as to her. He's an expert in whatever task he performs. Gojo denies being able to do such a feat, but notes that there's someone in his class that he feels the same sentiment toward. After his explanation, Gojo shows Shinju all of the makeup it purchased at a store and proceeds to prepare Shinju's cosplay. Back to the present, Shinju surprises both Sajuna and Kitagawa with her own cosplay. Overcome with emotion and completely self-conscious, Shinju is surprised by the warm reception given to her by both Kitagawa and her sister. They then take a commemorative photo of the three of them and then frantically prepare themselves for the photo shoot they were originally there for. Shinju and Kitagawa takes photos of Sajuna as Gojo watches in a dazed state. Once this is done, Kitagawa prepares to take some co-opus photos with Sajuna. Despite Sajuna's unnerved state, Kitagawa was overjoyed and elated to take the photo with her. Internally, Sajuna chastises Kitagawa for her unprofessional attitude and claims that she hates Kitagawa's type with a big smile. While Kitagawa and Shinju take some more photographs of Kitagawa's cosplay, Sajuna thanks Gojo for creating Shinju's and offers to pay for the expenses of Shinju's cosplay. Although Gojo declines to accept any payment, Sajuna insists on it and admits that she was ignorant to her sister's desire to cosplay. However, Gojo gives Sajuna some moving words that Sajuna compliments Gojo as wonderful. Meanwhile, Kitagawa has photos taken of her by Shinju and during it, Shinju's beholder breaks. Afterward, Sajuna and Shinju review the photos they took earlier that day in her room. They also have a heart-to-heart about Sajuna's self-conscious nature about her appearance and how she envies Shinju in some ways. Recalling something that Gojo once said, Shinju resolves herself to get a part-time once she reaches high school and will start cosplaying herself. Exhausted by the work they did that day, Sajuna claims she much prefers doing with just Shinju. On the other hand, Shinju claims that she had fun and was glad that they did it. Looking at a picture of Gojo, Sajuna softly claims if she feels like it, she'd do it with Kitagawa and Gojo again. In his home, Gojo is contacted by Kitagawa, who was reviewing the photos sent by her. Watching the Flower Blaze series on her side, Kitagawa asks how did he manage to do such a great job applying makeup to make Shinju look so masculine. Gojo answers that he simply read how to do it in a magazine. Furthermore, he confirms that Shinju wore his student uniform for her cosplay. Also, Kitagawa misinterprets something Gojo said, making her think that Gojo wanted to start cosplaying himself. Gojo then clarifies the comment and informs her that after an impromptu moment, he had Shinju visit his home to set the cosplay up for her. Although upset, Kitagawa tells the ignorant Gojo that all is fine despite her acting contrarily. Laying in his room, Gojo looks at the in-progress new cosplay for Kitagawa called Veronica. A brief flashback shows Gojo in Kitagawa's room watching a video displaying the character as they enjoy some pizza together. Because the character has a darker skin tone, Gojo suggests they digitally touch the photo up and Kitagawa agrees to it, while contemplating the complexities of cosplay costumes, mainly the ones that he's created in the past. Kitagawa arrives and Gojo goes to meet her at his doorstep. When he does, he's left shocked to see Kitagawa with a dark tan. She informs Gojo that she used a foundation to give her a pseudo-tan, because Kitagawa was drenched in sweat. She takes a shower and Gojo gives her a change of clothes for her. Afterward, in Gojo's room, Kitagawa shows Gojo the makeup and fake chain and cuffs that she'll use for the Veronica cosplay. She also shows Gojo the bricklayer backdrop that she'll use for the background of the photo. Despite not having the sharp fake teeth for the cosplay, Gojo reveals that he learned that fake nails can be used as a substitute for the cosplay. Kitagawa tries on the teeth and Gojo is impressed by them. Kitagawa then prepares to try on the cosplay, which flusters Gojo, making him blush. Alerted by this, Kitagawa believes Gojo was suffering from heatstroke and goes to get him some water. She, however, bumps her head, creating a bruise, which complicates her trying on the wig she had for her cosplay. Later that day, the two visit a men's clothing shop in Shibuya, and Kitagawa has Gojo try on an assortment of clothes, all of which don't look good on Gojo. However, Kitagawa loves how he looks in them all. They then try on the same t-shirt together and then hats. After this, they have some ramen together and continue their excursion around Shibuya. Eventually, Kitagawa asks Gojo when they can prepare the Veronica cosplay together, and Gojo refuses to help any further with it. His reason being is that he's incapable of looking at Kitagawa in such an outfit that has so much exposure to her chest. Hearing this makes Kitagawa have a playful tantrum on Gojo and promises to be more mindful of her next cosplay. As they continue walking, Kitagawa whispers into Gojo's ear asking him if he'd like a picture of her in the cosplay. Gojo's response is flustered and incoherent, which Kitagawa claims that she was joking. To be continued.